I'm Lisa K. Donner, along with Jeff Charles, Andrew Moran, Sarah Cowgill, and James Spite. And this is the Conservative Five, Liberty Nation's online TV news program. Shipping, trucking, hoarding, pick your poison, but something just isn't right when the frozen food aisle at your supermarket is devoid of lean cuisines. According to the executive director of the Port of Los Angeles, getting goods from ship to shore is a carefully designed symphony. Container ships need to be emptied into trucks. Trucks need drivers. Empty trucks need to return to ports. There's just so many elements that go into the supply chain that are beginning to break down. Oh my, Andrew, you recently looked into this pandemic-born phenomena. What's driving this latest supply chain problem?
Well, as you explained, there are many factors at play here. The number one thing is that everyone is demanding everything at the same time as the global economy reopens. You have the ship container crisis. Weather conditions are impacting a certain commodity, so the output is not matching the demand. Work stoppages are happening in South America, so you have all these problems that are transpiring at the wrong time and at the exact same time. You know, I've used this example a couple of times already on Ellen Radio and the Uprising podcast. But you know, before COVID, let's say if there was a work stoppage in Chile, and you know, copper price would react by going up a few basis points. Nowadays, if there's a work stoppage in Chile because unions are protesting, copper prices go up 1 or 2%. So the same things happening across the commodities market, from soybeans to wheat. So you know, coffee shops need their coffee, restaurants need their burgers, and you know, the grocery stores need their eggs. So it's just everyone wanting everything simultaneously.
All right, but Sarah, a lot of bizarre things are being affected. Christmas trees, a bucket of Kentucky Fried Chicken. You know, what's with all the weird products? Do you have any idea?
There's a very huge shortage of people who actually want to work. And if you can't, as you and Andrew have said, if you can't get the trucks out of port and across the country to deliver the goods they need to deliver, that's where you're going to run into problems. There's just a work supply shortage out there as well. It's not just product.
Jeff, it's interesting because I was at an event the other day, and a friend of ours owns a very large trucking company in Virginia. And he says, you know, I just can't find people that want to drive trucks.
You know, I'm not surprised. I mean, it seems like that's been an issue for a while, but I think COVID probably made it even worse. Up until September, we were basically paying people to stay home. So I would expect at least some of that to start going back, because now the federal government isn't providing enhanced unemployment benefits. But I don't think it'll happen anytime soon. I mean, this isn't really my wheelhouse. I don't know much about this stuff, but I know that, you know, when you incentivize people to stay home, that's what they're going to do. So hopefully these businesses will be able to attract more people back, and without the enhanced benefits, maybe they'll be compelled to go back to work.
Jim, when do you think the madness is going to end? You know, I mean, I think people are getting tired of not enough water bottles on the shelf, and then there's the issue of hoarding, which may play a part in this.
Yeah, I'm sure that does play some part of it. I actually know, I'm not personally a hoarder, but I do know some people who prefer a slightly different term, prepper. And I've seen some of these pantries. Let's just say the shortage is not universal. That said, when can we expect this to clear up? I can't even begin to answer that question. That there are so many factors. First off, we have to get people back to work, right? And not just back to work in general. We do have to get people back to driving trucks to move these goods. So we need people in the factories. We need people in the processing plants. We need people in the trucks. We need people in the grocery stores. You can't hardly walk into a restaurant or a store of any sort these days without there being a sign somewhere posted in plain view that says, please excuse us, we're shorthanded.
I was writing this morning about, I was reading this morning about the whole Long Beach, Los Angeles ports, and many industry observers are saying that it's not going to clear up until sometime early to mid 2022. So this problem is going to extend way beyond Christmas. And I mentioned Christmas because a lot of these retailers are saying, hey, come do your shopping early just in case there's not enough products on the shelves. And I want to say too that companies are reacting to this problem. It may not solve the problem, but they're doing something about it. Costco, Walmart, Target, they're renting out their own cargo ships as opposed to, using a third-party source to ship their goods from Asia to the West Coast of the United States. But the problem is that they're doing that, but they're inevitably going to pass the cost on to the consumers, because the main problem is that as a 40-foot container of their own is going to cost $20,000. Right now, if they use a third-party source, it's going to be around $11,000, which is still at an all-time high. But still, I mean, you're going to pay double, and that cost is inevitably going to be go on to the shopper.
Wait a minute. You also mentioned to me this morning something about China, like countries are hoarding too.
Yeah, well, the thing with China is that they're the largest consumer of soybeans, and I think they're the second largest consumer of wheat. But regardless of the case, they're purchasing a lot of goods: oil, soybean, wheat, corn. They're doing a lot of this, and they're trying to rebuild their strategic reserves, and they're trying to feed their population. One of the main factors right now is their pig supply. So right now they're importing large amounts of pork because their pigs are suffering from African swine flu. So they're killing off a lot of their tremendous meat supply. So that's another issue too of why you may be spending more pork at the grocery store, because all of that is going to China. So China's playing a huge part, whether directly or indirectly, whether it's in nefarious motives or not. They're going to be a huge factor moving forward when it comes to solving the supply chain problem.
Okay, Jim, sorry I cut you off. But now you can talk about the bacon shortage.
Well, to address what Andrew just said, there is also a supply side issue, or potentially a supply side issue for other nations. I'll never forget the article. I can even tell you it was the July 2005 edition of Forbes magazine I read it in, where the journalist had an interview with the CEO of Saudi Aramco and specifically asks, okay, you talk about all this profit, and that $100 barrel of oil, that was the price at the time, of course, only cost you $2 to produce. What happens when the price falls below $100 a barrel? And the answer was a laugh. And then we just ship out fewer barrels. Restrict the supply so the price goes back up. I don't know that is happening, but that's certainly a factor that could be happening.
Well, when it comes to OPEC just finished their monthly meeting, and they're saying that they're not going to ramp up output like Joe Biden wants. They're still going to stick to their 400,000 barrel per day increase from their agreement they had in July. So energy prices are still going to be sky high, and the energy crisis, as I've pointed out before, is going to intensify in the northern hemisphere. So that's going to be another problem to look out for in this whole supply chain problem.
Hey, well, of course. I mean, doing what Joe Biden wants doesn't necessarily make that money for him.
Sarah, you mentioned to me that you weren't seeing a lot of shortages in the heartland, but your farmers out there still have to buy, gas and diesel to run their tractors, et cetera, and they're paying more for this stuff.
Right. Our gas prices have gone up quite a bit during this administration, and especially lately. This administration, Mr. Biden, has a big public image problem on his hands. You've got people afraid, and they're buying in bulk, like, hundreds of dollars worth of dried milk and supplements and vitamins and medicines that they're trying to get their hands on. And even though that sounds, doomsday prepperish, it's really not. It's really a factor of they can't get things right now. So they're going to get what they can get and hoard it. And that's an image problem. It's going to be the people who are afraid and are talking about it, and they're all over social media. And that's the image problem, is that people feel we're running out of food and gas and the ability to stay alive. That's not going to go well for elections coming up. So they got to get their act together and do something pretty quick before 2022. I don't see it here. I really don't. But I do see people starting to freak out about not being able to get supplies that they need.
All right, Andrew, I'm going to give you the last word because you're our economics correspondent.
Yeah, well, it may not deal with you guys, but in my case, I haven't had any issues buying any of my vegan meat proteins. I still can buy my Beyond Meat ground beef. I can still buy my Eve's chicken burger, so I'm still good on that front. So I'm all set.
There is a benefit to not having a lot of competition.
Okay, vegans out there, don't eat our bacon. When will the madness end? Liberty Nation will try to bring you the latest and most pertinent information on supply chain health. We certainly do hope it ends soon. Thanks for joining us, and thanks, panel. That's That's it for our Conservative 5 panel today. Check out our other C5 shows and segments on your favorite video platform, YouTube, Vimeo, Rumble. We're on them all. As well, Liberty Nation has its own Roku channel where you can see all of our TV productions. Thanks for tuning in, and remember to surf on over to libertynation.com. Sign up for a new member zone, just $29.99 for an entire year. Special thanks to our fantastic editor and post coordinator, Frank Diorio, our executive producer, Sarah Cowgill. I'm Lisa K. Donner, editor-in-chief. Thanks for joining us today. This has been a production of libertynation.com, conservative news where truth matters.